Hello, and welcome to Mythical Stories. Tonight, we're embarking on a profound journey into the deepest, darkest, most mysterious place on Earth, the ocean depths. Not the shallow coastal waters where sunlight penetrates and life is abundant and familiar, but the true deep sea, the abyssal plains and trenches, the hadal zones and midnight zones, the vast underwater realms that remain more unexplored than the surface of Mars, more mysterious than outer space, more unknown than any frontier humanity has ever encountered. What if the deep sea still holds unexplained mysteries? Not what if as speculation, but what if as invitation, as opening, as acknowledgement that yes, absolutely, without question, the deep sea holds mysteries we haven't even begun to understand. Tonight, you'll discover why the ocean depths remain so profoundly mysterious, what we do know about this alien realm, what creatures have been found there that seem impossible, and what might still exist in the deepest places waiting to be discovered, living in darkness and pressure beyond human comprehension. The deep sea is not empty. It's not barren. It's not the lifeless void that early scientists imagined. It's filled with life, with creatures adapted to conditions that would instantly kill surface-dwelling beings, with ecosystems that function according to rules completely different from those that govern life in sunlight. And we've explored less than 5% of the ocean floor, less than 5%. That means 95% remains unmapped, unexplored, unknown. What lives in that 95%? What creatures swim in trenches we've never visited? What ecosystems thrive in the vast plains we've never seen? What mysteries wait in the darkness, in the pressure, in the cold depths where no human has ever ventured? Before we journey deeper into this mysterious exploration, if you're enjoying this peaceful content and would like more stories like this, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to Mythical Stories. Your support helps us create more calming content designed specifically for your rest and relaxation. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Now, let's prepare for our descent into the deep sea. Find a comfortable position in your bed, allowing your body to sink completely, feeling the support beneath you like the ocean floor supporting the vast weight of water above. Take a deep breath in through your nose, drawing in the mysterious energy of the deep ocean, the calm that exists beneath surface storms, the peace that lives in the darkness far below the churning waves. And let it out slowly through your mouth, releasing any surface tension, any need to understand everything immediately, any discomfort with the unknown. Again, breathe in deeply, filling your lungs with the profound calm of the ocean depths where nothing moves quickly, where pressure equalizes everything, where darkness is not frightening, but simply the natural state of being. And release, feeling your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your whole body softening as if you're slowly sinking through water, descending through layers of ocean, moving from the bright surface down through twilight zones towards the deep midnight blue, and finally into the absolute darkness of the abyss. One more time, breathe in the mystery of the deep sea, the calm acceptance that vast realms exist beyond human knowledge, that mysteries remain unsolved, and that's beautiful, that's perfect, that's how it should be. And let everything go, sinking deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, deeper into the profound calm that exists in the deepest places, where the weight of the ocean above creates perfect stillness below, where nothing disturbs the ancient peace, where mysteries rest undisturbed in patient darkness. Perfect. You don't need to do anything but listen. You can close your eyes or keep them gently open, gazing into the darkness like looking into deep water. There's nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to accomplish, nothing you need to understand or figure out. Just rest. Just be still. Just allow the mysteries of the deep sea to carry you gently into the most peaceful, restorative sleep. Let's begin our journey into the mysterious depths, the zones of mystery, descending into darkness. To understand the deep sea's mysteries, we must first understand that the ocean is not a single environment, but a series of distinct zones, each with its own characteristics, its own challenges, its own forms of life. At the surface, in the epipelagic zone, sunlight penetrates fully. This is the ocean we're familiar with, the realm of fish we recognize, of dolphins and whales that breathe air, of photosynthesis and familiar food chains. This zone extends from the surface down to about 200 meters, about 650 feet. It's bright, relatively warm, filled with life that depends on sunlight, directly or indirectly. This is less than 3% of the ocean's depth. Below the sunlit surface lies the mesopelagic zone, the twilight zone, extending from 200 meters down to 1,000 meters, from 650 feet to about 3,300 feet. Here, sunlight fades. Only the faintest blue light penetrates to the deepest parts of this zone, too dim for photosynthesis, too weak for plants to survive, but just bright enough that creatures can still see shapes, can detect movement, can use vision as a sense. This is where bioluminescence becomes common, where creatures begin to produce their own light because the sun's light is no longer sufficient. This is where things start to become strange, where familiar fish give way to creatures with huge eyes, adapted to see in near darkness, with transparent bodies that make them invisible in dim light, with light-producing organs that they use to communicate, to hunt, to defend, to find mates in the gathering gloom. But the twilight zone is still visited by surface creatures. Whales dive through it. Some fish migrate up and down daily, rising toward the surface at night to feed and descending during the day to avoid predators. The twilight zone is a transition, a boundary, a threshold between the familiar ocean and the truly alien realm that lies below. Below 1,000 meters, below 3,300 feet, we enter the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone. Here, all sunlight is gone. Absolute darkness reigns. The only light comes from bioluminescent creatures, brief flashes and glows in endless black. The pressure is immense, over 100 times atmospheric pressure at sea level, enough to crush anything not adapted to it. The temperature is near freezing, hovering just above the point where water would freeze, cold enough that all processes slow down, that life itself operates at a different pace. The midnight zone extends from 1,000 meters down to 4,000 meters, from 3,300 feet to about 13,000 feet. This zone contains more water than all the zones above it combined. It's vast, dark, cold, pressurized, and filled with creatures so strange, so adapted to this alien environment, that when they're brought to the surface, they cannot survive. Their bodies are built for pressure and darkness and cold. Remove those conditions and they die, sometimes explosively as the gas in their bodies expands, sometimes by simply ceasing to function, as proteins that work under pressure denature in its absence. The creatures of the midnight zone have never seen sunlight. They've never experienced warmth. They know nothing but darkness and pressure and cold. And in those conditions, they thrive. They've been there for millions of years, evolving in isolation, developing forms and behaviors so strange that they challenge our understanding of what life can be. But the ocean goes deeper still, below 4,000 meters, below 13,000 feet. We enter the abyss or pelagica zone, the abyssal zone, extending down to 6,000 meters, down to nearly 20,000 feet. The abyss. The word itself carries weight, carries meaning beyond mere measurement. The abyss is the deep place, the void, the realm that seems infinite and empty and profound beyond comprehension. The abyssal plains are the largest habitat on Earth by area. They cover more of the planet's surface than all the land combined. They're vast, flat regions of the ocean floor covered in fine sediment, lying in complete darkness under pressure that exceeds 250 times atmospheric pressure, in water that's only a few degrees above freezing. For decades, scientists believed the abyssal plains were lifeless, were marine deserts, empty expanses where nothing could possibly survive, so far from sunlight, so far from any energy source, so deep under such impossible pressure. But they were wrong. The abyss is not empty. It's inhabited. Creatures live there, adapted to conditions humans can barely imagine, thriving in what we once thought was uninhabitable, proving that life is more resilient, more creative, more mysterious than our theories ever suggested. And below the abyss, in the deepest trenches, we find the hadal pelagic zone, the hadal zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld, the realm of the dead. The hadal zone exists in ocean trenches deeper than 6,000 meters, deeper than 20,000 feet, extending down to the deepest known point in the ocean, the Challenger, deep in the Mariana Trench, which descends to nearly 11,000 meters, nearly 36,000 feet, nearly 7 miles beneath the surface. At that depth, pressure exceeds 1,000 times atmospheric pressure. The weight of the water above is incomprehensible. It would instantly crush any human, any unprotected vessel, anything not specifically designed and built to withstand it. The temperature is just above freezing. No light has ever penetrated there from the surface. The hadal zone is as alien as any environment in the solar system, as foreign as the surface of Venus or the moons of Jupiter. And yet life exists there. Creatures have been filmed in the Challenger Deep. Fish that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of biology, that shouldn't be able to maintain cellular structure under such pressure, swim there. Amphipods, larger than dinner plates, scuttle across the trench floor. Microorganisms thrive in sediments. Life persists in the deepest, darkest, most extreme environment on Earth. This is the geography of mystery. These zones, descending from familiar surface waters down through twilight and midnight into the abyss and beyond into the hadal depths. These are the layers of unknown, the stages of increasing strangeness, the progressive descent into mystery that characterizes the ocean. And we've only explored a tiny fraction. Most deep-sea research focuses on specific locations, specific features, specific trenches or ridges, or underwater mountains. The vast plains between these features, the endless dark expanses that make up the majority of the deep ocean floor, these remain almost completely unexplored, unmapped, unknown. What lives there? What mysteries exist in the ordinary deep sea, not in the extreme trenches or the dramatic underwater volcanoes, but in the vast, dark, quiet plains that make up most of the deep ocean? We don't know. We've barely looked. The deep sea remains one of Earth's last true frontiers, and its mysteries wait in patient darkness for discovery. Tonight, as you rest, imagine yourself floating at the surface, then slowly descending, sinking through the sunlit zone, watching the light fade as you enter twilight, continuing down as darkness closes in, passing through midnight, where only bioluminescent flashes break the black, continuing deeper into the abyss, where even those flashes become rare, and finally settling gently on the ocean floor in the hadal zone, in complete darkness, in profound silence, in the deep place where mysteries rest undisturbed, waiting. You're safe in the depths. The darkness is not threatening, but peaceful. The pressure equalizes. The cold slows everything to a calm, patient pace. And in this deep place, you can rest completely, held by the ocean, surrounded by mystery, cradled in the deepest, darkest, most peaceful place on Earth. The creatures we found, impossibilities made real. Let's explore now some of the actual creatures that have been discovered in the deep sea. Beings so strange, so adapted to their alien environment, so unlike anything that lives in sunlight, that they seem like creatures from science fiction or mythology. But they're real. They've been photographed, filmed, studied. They exist in the deep ocean, living lives we're only beginning to understand. The giant squid, Architeuthis, was a legendary creature for centuries. Sailors told stories of enormous squid attacking ships, of tentacles thick as masts reaching up from the depths. But no scientist had ever seen a living giant squid. Dead specimens occasionally washed ashore, or were found in whale stomachs, proving they existed, but always dead, always damaged, never showing how they actually lived in the deep sea. The giant squid remained a mystery, a creature at the boundary between legend and fact, until 2004, when researchers finally photographed a living giant squid in its natural habitat, and then in 2012, when a team filmed one in the deep Pacific. The footage revealed a creature of nightmarish beauty. Huge eyes, the largest of any animal, bigger than dinner plates, designed to gather every photon of light in the deep gloom. 8 arms and 2 longer tentacles lined with serrated suckers that can grip prey with terrible strength. A sharp beak capable of tearing flesh. And most remarkable, the ability to change color, to flash patterns across its skin, to communicate or camouflage or express something we don't understand using chromatophores that respond faster than conscious thought. Giant squid grow up to 43 feet long. They live at depths of several hundred to several thousand feet in the twilight and midnight zones, hunting fish and other squid, pursued by sperm whales who dive deep to hunt them. The scars found on sperm whales, circular marks from squid suckers, some the size of dinner plates, suggest that giant squid, even larger than the ones we've measured, might exist deeper, might grow to sizes we haven't documented, might remain in the depths, never surfacing, never dying in shallow water where we might find them. And the giant squid has a larger relative, the colossal squid, Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, which lives in the deep Antarctic waters. Colossal squid are heavier than giant squid, with thicker bodies and shorter tentacles, but with even larger eyes and with rotating hooks on their tentacles in addition to suckers. A colossal squid can weigh half a ton. Its eyes are even larger than those of the giant squid, the better to see in the deep Antarctic waters where it hunts. Only a few specimens have been found, all dead, captured by fishing vessels, or found in whale stomachs. No one has ever filmed a living colossal squid. Its behavior, its hunting methods, how it mates, how it lives its life in the deep cold dark, all of this remains unknown. The colossal squid is real, but still mysterious, existing at the edge of our knowledge, documented but not understood. Then there's the vampire squid, Vampiroteuthis infernalis, literally vampire squid from hell, though this creature is actually one of the gentlest in the deep sea. The vampire squid is small, only about a foot long, with a gelatinous body and a cloak-like web connecting its 8 arms. Its name comes from its deep red color and the webbing that looks like a vampire's cape. But the vampire squid doesn't hunt living prey. It feeds on marine snow, the constant gentle fall of detritus from the surface, bits of dead plankton and fecal matter, and disintegrating bodies that drift down through the water column, accumulating on the ocean floor. The vampire squid drifts in the midnight zone, in regions of very low oxygen where most predators cannot survive, and it catches particles of marine snow on its arms, then passes them to its mouth, surviving on what amounts to garbage falling from above. It's a peaceful scavenger, not a predator, despite its frightening name. When threatened, the vampire squid doesn't attack. It turns its cape inside out, covering itself, exposing fleshy projections covered in spines that make it look unpalatable. Then it drifts, waiting for the threat to pass, using as little energy as possible in an environment where energy is scarce. The vampire squid can also produce bioluminescent mucus, a glowing slime that it ejects when threatened, creating a cloud of light that confuses predators and allows the squid to escape into darkness. It's one of the strangest defensive mechanisms in nature, this glowing mucus cloud, and watching footage of it, you feel like you're seeing alien life, something that couldn't possibly be real but is. The anglerfish is perhaps the most famous deep-sea creature, recognizable by its disturbing appearance, the enormous mouth filled with transparent fangs, the tiny body, and most characteristic, the bioluminescent lure that extends from its forehead, glowing in the darkness, attracting prey. Female anglerfish are the ones with the lure. Males are tiny, sometimes less than an inch long compared to females that can be several feet long, and males have evolved the strangest reproductive strategy known to science. When a male finds a female in the vastness of the dark ocean, he bites into her body and fuses with her, physically merging, his body gradually degenerating until he's nothing but a pair of gonads attached to the female, providing sperm whenever she's ready to reproduce. The male loses his eyes, his digestive system, most of his organs. He becomes a permanent parasite, or perhaps a symbiont, completely dependent on the female, no longer an independent creature, but an appendage, a sperm bank attached to her body. Multiple males can attach to a single female, creating what might be the strangest household arrangement in nature. A female anglerfish swimming through the abyss with several male bodies fused to her, all of them sharing her bloodstream, all dependent on her for survival, all waiting to provide genetic material when needed. This reproductive strategy evolved because finding mates in the deep sea is incredibly difficult. The ocean is vast, creatures are scattered, and in absolute darkness, locating another member of your species is nearly impossible. So when a male anglerfish finds a female, he doesn't take chances. He fuses with her, ensuring that when she's ready to reproduce, sperm will be available. It's bizarre, disturbing, fascinating, and completely real. There are over 200 species of anglerfish, and they're found throughout the deep ocean, hanging in the darkness, their lures glowing, attracting smaller fish who mistake the light for prey or for other bioluminescent creatures. The fish approaches the light, and suddenly the anglerfish's enormous jaws snap shut, the transparent fangs angling inward so prey cannot escape, and the victim is swallowed whole. Often fish almost as large as the anglerfish itself, possible because the anglerfish's jaw can unhinge, its stomach can expand, its body can accommodate prey that seems impossibly large. The viperfish has fangs so long they cannot fit inside its mouth. When the viperfish closes its jaw, its teeth extend outside, curving back toward its eyes. It looks like a creature from nightmares, like something that evolution got wrong, like something that shouldn't be able to function. But the viperfish is a successful predator in the midnight zone, using its long teeth to impale prey, using photophores along its body to produce light that attracts victims, then striking with incredible speed. Viperfish have been found with prey in their stomachs that's over half their own size, swallowed whole, despite the apparent impossibility. The barrel-eye fish, Macropinna microstoma, has a transparent head. You can see through its skull to its tubular eyes inside. The eyes point upward, watching for prey silhouetted against the faint light from above. This fish drifts in the twilight zone, patient, waiting for food to pass overhead. When it detects prey, it rotates its eyes forward, positions itself, and strikes. The transparent head allows maximum light to reach the eyes while protecting them from the stinging cells of jellyfish, which the barrel-eye often steals food from. It's an elegant solution to the problem of hunting in near darkness and watching footage of a barrel-eye fish hovering in the water, its transparent dome revealing the green eyes looking upward inside. You feel like you're looking at impossible biology, at something that violates rules, at alien life that happens to exist on Earth. The gulper eel has a mouth larger than its body, a jaw that can unhinge to swallow prey many times its own size. It looks like mostly mouth, with a tiny body trailing behind, a whip-like tail that can be several times longer than the rest of the eel. Gulper eels swim through the deep sea with their enormous mouths open, essentially using their mouths as nets, scooping up any prey they encounter. They can swallow fish, squid, crustaceans, whatever crosses their path, their stomachs stretching to accommodate the meal. At the end of the gulper eel's tail is a light-producing organ, a bioluminescent bulb that glows pink or red. Scientists aren't sure what this is for. Perhaps it lures prey. Perhaps it's used in mating. Perhaps it has a function we haven't guessed. The gulper eel itself is mysterious, rarely observed, poorly understood. A creature we know exists, but whose life cycle, behavior, and ecology remain largely unknown. These creatures, these impossible animals, these beings that look like mistakes or like deliberate attempts to create nightmares are all real. They've all been filmed, photographed, sometimes captured. They exist in the deep ocean, living lives perfectly adapted to conditions that would instantly kill us. And these are just the creatures we found. just the ones that happened to have been in the right place when researchers visited with cameras and submersibles. How many more exist? How many species live in the deep sea that we've never seen, never even suspected? Recent estimates suggest that we've documented perhaps 10% of deep sea species. Perhaps. Which means 90% remain unknown, undiscovered, living their lives in darkness, never seen by human eyes, never recorded, never named. Mysterious, not because they're hiding, but simply because the ocean is vast and deep, and we've barely begun to explore it. The bioluminescent mystery, light in the deepest dark. One of the most profound mysteries of the deep sea is bioluminescence, the production of light by living creatures. In the deep ocean, where sunlight never penetrates, where darkness is absolute and eternal, between 70 and 90% of creatures produce their own light. 70 to 90%. Almost everything in the deep sea glows. This seems impossible. Light production is chemically expensive. It requires energy, requires special organs, requires biological systems dedicated to creating photons. In an environment where food is scarce, where every calorie counts, where energy is precious, why would so many creatures invest in producing light? They do it because in the deep sea, light is power. Light is communication. Light is survival. Creatures use bioluminescence for hunting, for defense, for mating, for camouflage, for purposes we don't fully understand. Some fish have bioluminescent lures, like the anglerfish, attracting prey with light. Some squid produce glowing clouds to confuse predators. Some jellyfish flash bright blue when disturbed, startling whatever touched them. Some species use patterns of light to identify each other, to signal their species, to find mates in the vast darkness. And some creatures use bioluminescence for counter-illumination camouflage, one of the most elegant adaptations in nature. Here's how it works. In the twilight zone, faint light filters down from above. If you're a predator looking upward, you can see prey silhouetted against this light. But some fish and squid have light-producing organs on their undersides. They detect how much light is coming from above and produce exactly the same amount of light from below, matching the background, eliminating their silhouette, making themselves invisible. They're glowing to hide, using light to create darkness, or rather to create the appearance of nothing, to make themselves vanish against the faint glow of the surface far above. This requires sophisticated systems, light sensors to detect how much light is coming from above, light-producing organs that can adjust their brightness precisely, neural systems to coordinate it all, and it works. Counter-illuminating fish are nearly invisible from below, their bioluminescence cancelling out their shadow, their glow, making them transparent in a way that physical transparency never could. But the deepest mystery of bioluminescence isn't how it works mechanically. We understand the chemistry reasonably well. Most bioluminescence involves a molecule called luciferin reacting with oxygen in the presence of an enzyme called luciferase, producing light with almost no heat, cold light, photons generated directly by chemical reaction. The mystery is why it evolved so many times independently. Bioluminescence has evolved at least 40 times in different lineages, 40 separate evolutionary events leading to light production. That's extraordinary. Most complex adaptations evolve once, maybe a few times. But bioluminescence keeps appearing, keeps being invented by different groups of organisms, fish and squid, and jellyfish and bacteria and crustaceans and many others, all finding their own ways to produce light. This suggests that in the deep sea, bioluminescence isn't just useful, it's essential. It's so advantageous that evolution keeps rediscovering it, keeps creating new ways to generate light, keeps investing in this expensive, complex, sophisticated adaptation because the benefits outweigh the costs, because in a world without sunlight, making your own light is worth whatever it takes, and the variety of bioluminescence is astounding. Some creatures glow steady and constant. Others flash in patterns. Some produce blue light, which travels farthest in water. Others produce green or yellow or even red light. Some species have multiple colors, able to produce different wavelengths for different purposes. Some creatures have elaborate light organs with lenses and reflectors and shutters, able to aim their light, to control its intensity, to create focused beams or diffuse glows as needed. Some deep sea fish have light organs that contain bioluminescent bacteria. The fish don't produce light themselves. They cultivate bacteria that do, housing them in special organs, feeding them, protecting them, in exchange for the light they produce. It's symbiosis, partnership between fish and bacteria, cooperation between kingdoms of life. The fish provides a home and nutrients. The bacteria provide light. Both benefit. Some of these symbiotic relationships are so specific that particular fish species have particular bacterial species, partnerships that have lasted for millions of years, coevolution between host and symbiont, both adapting to each other, becoming dependent on each other. There are species of fish that cannot survive without their bioluminescent bacteria. If the bacteria die, the fish cannot produce light, and its chances of survival plummet. And there are bacterial species that only live in these fish, that have abandoned free-living existence entirely, that exist only as symbionts, completely dependent on their hosts. One of the most spectacular bioluminescent displays in nature comes from jellyfish. Many deep-sea jellies produce light, often blue or green, flashing when disturbed. But some species create light shows of extraordinary beauty. The Atolla jellyfish, when attacked by a predator, produces a series of bright flashes that pulse outward like an alarm, like a burglar alarm calling for help. These flashes attract larger predators who might eat whatever is eating the jellyfish. It's called the burglar alarm defense, summoning help by attracting something big enough to threaten your attacker. Scientists discovered this by accident, by watching footage of deep-sea organisms. They saw the jellyfish's light show and wondered what purpose it served. Then they realized it was signaling, creating a light display that might summon rescue. It's sophisticated, strategic, a defensive mechanism that requires the jellyfish to assess threats and respond with specific light patterns designed to attract specific types of predators. This is not simple stimulus response. This is something closer to decision-making, to strategy, to behavior that suggests more cognitive complexity than we usually attribute to jellyfish. And then there's the mystery of red bioluminescence. Most bioluminescent creatures produce blue or green light because these colors travel farthest in water. Red light is absorbed quickly, doesn't penetrate far. So producing red light seems wasteful, ineffective. But some deep-sea creatures do produce red light. Why? Because most deep-sea creatures can't see red. Their eyes are adapted to detect blue light, the color that predominates in the ocean. Red is invisible to them, So a creature that produces red light has a secret flashlight, a way to see without being seen. It can illuminate its surroundings in a color that's visible only to it, finding prey that have no idea they're being watched, hunting in light that its victims cannot perceive. It's invisible light, secret light, private light in a world where most light is public, is seen by everyone. The dragonfish uses this strategy. It has a red light organ under its eye and is one of the few deep sea fish that can see red. It swims through the darkness, its red light scanning for prey, and the prey, unable to see red, have no idea they're being illuminated, no warning that a predator is examining them, choosing, preparing to strike. It's one of nature's most elegant hunting adaptations, and it was only discovered recently, only understood when researchers realized that some deep-sea creatures have evolved the ability to see wavelengths that other deep-sea creatures cannot perceive. The bioluminescent mystery extends beyond individual creatures to entire ecosystems. In some parts of the deep ocean, researchers have observed coordinated light displays, many creatures flashing together, creating what looks like underwater fireworks, waves of light moving through the water. No one knows what this is. Are creatures communicating? Is this mating behavior on a massive scale? Is it a response to some environmental trigger we haven't identified? Or is it coincidence, many creatures happening to flash at similar times for unrelated reasons? We don't know. The deep sea light shows remain mysterious, beautiful, unexplained. Some researchers have suggested that bioluminescence might be the most common form of communication on Earth. More creatures use bioluminescence to communicate than use sound or visual signals in lighted environments. The deep ocean, the largest habitat on the planet, is filled with creatures talking to each other through light, sending messages we cannot read, conducting conversations in flashes and glows and patterns of bioluminescence that mean nothing to us, but everything to them. We're outsiders to this conversation. We can see the lights but cannot understand the language, cannot decipher what's being said, cannot participate or even fully observe because our presence, our lights, our submersibles, these disrupt the natural patterns, introduce artificial light that overwhelms the subtle biological signals. We're trying to understand a language while shouting, trying to hear whispers while making noise, trying to observe behavior while altering it through observation. The bioluminescent mystery is not just what we don't know, but what we might never be able to know, what might remain forever beyond our understanding, because we're too different from deep sea creatures, too dependent on our own senses and our own environment, too limited by our surface-dwelling biology to fully comprehend the light language of the abyss. Tonight, as you sink towards sleep, imagine the deep sea filled with lights, bioluminescent creatures glowing and flashing, sending messages in a language of light, communicating across the darkness in ways we're only beginning to understand. You are surrounded by mystery, by lights whose meaning remains unknown, by flashes and glows that might be greetings or warnings or love letters or signals whose purpose we cannot guess. Let this bioluminescent mystery be your lullaby. Let the lights of the deep sea guide you into sleep. You don't need to understand their language. You just need to appreciate their beauty, to honor their mystery, to rest in the knowledge that communication happens in forms we cannot decipher, that meaning exists beyond our comprehension. that the universe is full of languages we will never speak. And that's beautiful. That's perfect. That's how it should be. The hydrothermal vents, gardens in hell. In 1977, scientists exploring the deep Pacific in the submersible Alvin made a discovery that revolutionized biology, that overthrew fundamental assumptions about life, that proved that the impossible was actually commonplace. They found hydrothermal vents, cracks in the ocean floor where superheated water, heated by volcanic activity below the Earth's crust, pours into the freezing ocean. These vents, also called black smokers and white smokers, depending on the minerals they carry, erupt water at temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, hot enough to instantly kill any organism that came into direct contact. But surrounding these vents, in an environment that seems utterly hostile, in absolute darkness, 2 miles beneath the surface, in water that's elsewhere near freezing and nearly devoid of oxygen, surrounding these vents, the scientists found life. Not just life, but abundant life. Dense communities of creatures living nowhere else, thriving in conditions that should be impossible. Giant tube worms, red and white, their bodies as thick as human arms, growing up to 8 feet long, clustered around the vents in groves, in gardens of alien life. These tube worms have no mouths, no digestive systems, no way to eat. They cannot consume food. Instead, they have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria that live inside them. The bacteria use chemicals from the vent water, hydrogen sulfide, that would be toxic to most life, and through chemosynthesis, convert it into energy, into food, into the basis of a food chain that does not depend on sunlight, that does not require photosynthesis, that functions according to completely different rules than almost all other ecosystems on Earth. This was revolutionary. Before hydrothermal vents were discovered, scientists believed that all life on Earth depended ultimately on the sun. Plants photosynthesize, converting sunlight into energy. Herbivores eat plants. Carnivores eat herbivores. The sun is the base of every food chain, the ultimate source of energy for every ecosystem. Except it isn't. The vent communities proved that life can exist independent of sunlight, that chemosynthesis can replace photosynthesis, that bacteria using chemicals from Earth's interior can be the base of a food chain just as productive, just as complex as any on the surface. Around the vents, scientists found not just tube worms, but entire ecosystems. Giant white clams with red flesh, also hosting chemosynthetic bacteria. Blind white crabs scuttling across the rocks. Shrimp swarming in clouds near the vent openings. Fish adapted to the warm water, living nowhere else, found only in these tiny pockets of heat, in the vast cold deep. Eyeless shrimp that nonetheless have light-sensing organs on their backs, detecting the faint infrared radiation from the superheated water, using heat as a sense, navigating by warmth in the cold darkness. Yeti crabs, pale and hairy, farming bacteria on their claws, waving their arms through the vent water to feed the bacteria, then eating the bacteria, cultivating their own food in an underwater garden that requires no soil, no sunlight, just chemical-rich water and patience. Since that first discovery, hundreds of hydrothermal vent sites have been found throughout the world's oceans, along mid-ocean ridges where tectonic plates pull apart, where magma rises close to the ocean floor, where the Earth's internal heat creates these oases of chemical energy in the cold abyss. And each vent system hosts its own community. its own unique collection of species, many of them found nowhere else. Some vent species are found at multiple vents along the same ridge system, but others are unique to single vents, isolated populations that cannot reach other vents, separated by miles of cold abyssal plain that they cannot cross, evolving in isolation, becoming more and more distinct as millennia pass. Some vent sites are ancient, thousands of years old, stable features that have supported life for longer than human civilization has existed. Others are young, recently formed, and researchers have been able to document how life colonizes new vents, how larvae drift on ocean currents until they detect chemicals that signal a vent, how they settle and grow and establish new communities in years or decades, a rapid succession from barren rock to thriving ecosystem. But vents are also temporary. Eventually the volcanic activity that creates them shifts, and the vent goes cold. The chemical flow stops. The water temperature drops. And the community dies. The tube worms, unable to survive without the chemicals they depend on, perish. The clams and crabs disperse or die. When a hydrothermal vent dies, it leaves behind a ghostly landscape. The towering chimneys collapse slowly, crumbling into mineral rubble. The once crowded gardens of tube worms fall silent, their white tubes empty, their red plumes gone. What was once one of the most vibrant ecosystems on Earth becomes a cold, dark scar on the ocean floor. But even this ending is not truly an end. In the deep sea, nothing is wasted. Bacteria move in first, breaking down what remains, recycling matter with quiet efficiency. Scavengers arrive, feeding on the last traces of life. Slowly, patiently, the abyss reclaims the site. And somewhere else, far away along the same tectonic ridge, the earth cracks open again. Superheated water begins to flow. Chemicals pour into the darkness, and life returns, not carried by intention, not guided by design, but by currents, by chance, by larvae, drifting through black water until they sense warmth, chemistry, possibility. The deep sea is not static. It breathes on geological timescales. It builds and destroys worlds without noise, without witnesses. These vent ecosystems have reshaped how we think about life itself. If life can thrive here, without sunlight, under crushing pressure, in toxic chemicals, then the limits we once believed in are not limits at all. They are assumptions. And assumptions, like darkness, fade when explored. Scientists now look to the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, to Europa and Enceladus, worlds with subsurface oceans and internal heat, and they wonder, if hydrothermal vents can support life on Earth, why not there? The deep sea has become a map, a guide, a quiet teacher showing us that life does not need comfort. It needs only opportunity. And yet, for all this knowledge, the vent ecosystems remain deeply mysterious. We do not fully understand how long some species can survive without vents. We do not know how many vent fields exist undiscovered, hidden beyond the reach of our instruments. We do not know how resilient these systems truly are in the face of disturbance. Increasingly, human activity reaches even here. Deep-sea mining threatens to scrape the ocean floor, to destroy vent habitats before we have even named the species that live there. We stand at the edge of knowledge and responsibility, aware now that these hidden worlds are real, fragile, and irreplaceable. Tonight, as you drift deeper into rest, imagine these gardens in hell glowing softly in the darkness, warmth rising from the earth's crust, life clustering around invisible energy, birth, growth, collapse and renewal happening far below, beyond sound, beyond light. The deep sea does not rush. It waits. It endures. It reminds us that even in the most extreme darkness, life finds a way. Not loudly, not dramatically, but patiently, persistently, perfectly adapted to the mystery it inhabits. But hydrothermal vents are not the only places where the deep sea defies our expectations. There are other ecosystems equally strange, equally unsettling, that challenge everything we thought we knew about where life can exist and how it can survive. One of these is the world of cold seeps. Unlike hydrothermal vents, cold seeps are not hot. They do not erupt violently. They do not announce themselves with towering chimneys or clouds of superheated minerals. They are quiet, subtle, easy to miss. And yet they support life just as rich, just as specialized, just as alien. Cold seeps occur where methane, hydrogen sulfide, or other hydrocarbons slowly leak from the ocean floor. These chemicals seep out of the sediment, sometimes bubbling gently, sometimes diffusing invisibly into the surrounding water. The temperatures are low, often near freezing, no warmer than the surrounding deep sea. But chemically, these places are energy rich. And once again, bacteria form the foundation. Chemosynthetic microbes use methane or sulfide as an energy source, converting chemicals into biomass, creating the base of an ecosystem that does not rely on sunlight. Around cold seeps, scientists have found dense beds of clams and mussels, their tissues packed with symbiotic bacteria. Tube worms, similar to those at hydrothermal vents, grow here as well, though often more slowly, living longer, persisting for centuries instead of decades. Carbonate rocks form as a byproduct of methane consumption, creating hard substrates on the otherwise soft abyssal plain, allowing corals, sponges, and anemones to anchor themselves in the darkness. These seeps can remain active for thousands of years, slow and steady sources of energy in an otherwise sparse environment. What makes cold seeps particularly mysterious is how widespread they may be. We only find them when we look in exactly the right places. Vast areas of the ocean floor have never been surveyed at the resolution needed to detect subtle chemical leaks. Entire seep ecosystems may exist, quietly thriving, never seen, never recorded, supporting life for millennia without human knowledge. The deep sea does not announce its secrets. It waits for curiosity to stumble upon them. And then there are whale falls. When a whale dies at the surface, its body eventually sinks. A massive multi-ton carcass descends through the water column, passing through zones of light and twilight and midnight, finally settling on the ocean floor. What happens next is one of the most extraordinary ecological successions known to science. A single whale fall can sustain life for decades. First come the scavengers. Sharks, hagfish, crabs, amphipods strip the soft tissue, reducing the massive body to bones in months. Then comes the enrichment stage. The surrounding sediment, enriched by organic matter, supports dense communities of worms, mollusks, and crustaceans. Finally, in the sulfophilic stage, bacteria break down the lipids in the whale's bones, releasing sulfides that fuel chemosynthetic communities similar to those at vents and seeps. Specialized worms like the bone-eating Osidax bore into the bones themselves, lacking mouths and digestive tracts, relying entirely on symbiotic bacteria to extract nutrients from the marrow. A single whale fall can create a temporary oasis in the abyss, a stepping stone of life in an otherwise food-poor landscape. Some scientists believe whale falls may have served as evolutionary bridges, allowing vent and seep species to disperse across the ocean floor over evolutionary timescales. Life in the deep sea is connected in ways we are only beginning to glimpse, through networks of decay, chemistry, and chance. Despite these discoveries, the overwhelming truth remains. Most of the deep sea is still unknown. Not just unvisited, but fundamentally undescribed. The majority of species collected from deep-sea expeditions turn out to be new to science, new genera, new families. Sometimes entire branches of the tree of life that were previously invisible. And even when organisms are collected, we often know almost nothing about how they live. We see them once, briefly, under artificial light, disturbed by noise and vibration, and then they vanish back into darkness. The deep sea is difficult to study not just because it is far away, but because it is hostile to our presence. Pressure crushes, darkness hides, cold slows machinery, communication is delayed, every expedition is expensive, risky, and limited in time. Submersibles can visit a site for hours or days, but the deep sea exists on timescales of years, centuries, millennia. We observe moments. The ocean lives continuously. And then there is the question of sound. Light does not travel far in water, but sound does. The deep sea is not silent. It is filled with low-frequency noises. The cracking of ice, the rumble of distant earthquakes, the calls of whales that penetrate thousands of meters deep. Some creatures are exquisitely sensitive to vibration, detecting pressure waves through specialized organs. Sound may be another primary sense in the abyss, another layer of communication and perception that we barely understand. Human noise now intrudes into this ancient soundscape. Shipping, sonar, drilling, exploration. Low-frequency noise travels vast distances underwater, altering an environment that evolved in relative acoustic stability. We do not fully understand the consequences. We do not know how many species rely on sound for navigation, for mating, for detecting predators. We introduce disturbances without fully comprehending what we are disturbing. And yet, even as human activity expands, the deep sea remains largely indifferent. Vast, slow, patient, it has endured asteroid impacts, mass extinctions, ice ages, continental drift. It will outlast us. The question is not whether the deep sea will survive humanity, but how much of its mystery will remain intact. Tonight, as you lie still, let your thoughts drift once more into the depths. Imagine the slow rain of marine snow, tiny particles drifting endlessly downward, feeding unseen lives. Imagine cold seeps, breathing chemicals into darkness, vents flaring and fading, whale bones becoming cities. Imagine creatures moving without urgency, adapted to scarcity, to pressure, to time measured not in minutes, but in generations. The deep sea does not hurry. It does not explain itself. It exists as it always has, layered, complex, unknowable in its entirety. And that is not a failure of understanding. It is a reminder. Some places are not meant to be fully known. Some mysteries are not problems to solve, but realities to respect. As sleep takes you, allow yourself to sink one last time, deeper than thought, deeper than language, into the quiet place where pressure equalizes, where darkness is complete, where life persists not despite the conditions, but because of them. The ocean holds its secrets gently, and tonight it holds you too. And even deeper than ecosystems and creatures, deeper than vents and seeps and falling giants, lies a mystery that cannot be filmed or sampled or captured in any net. Time itself, stretched and altered by the deep sea. In the abyss, life moves slowly. Metabolisms are reduced. Growth can take decades, sometimes centuries. Some deep-sea corals are thousands of years old, having grown millimeter by millimeter in total darkness, recording chemical histories of the ocean long before humans existed. There are sponges on the abyssal plains that were already ancient when the pyramids were built, living witnesses to epochs of planetary change, quietly filtering water molecule by molecule, unchanged in form, indifferent to surface history. In this realm, reproduction is rare, precious, uncertain. Many species release their offspring into the currents and never encounter them again. Others brood their young, investing immense energy in a few descendants rather than many. Some creatures may reproduce only once or twice in a lifetime that spans hundreds of years. The deep sea teaches patience at a scale that is difficult for us to comprehend. Nothing is rushed because nothing needs to be. Energy is scarce, so waste is minimized. Motion itself becomes a cost to be justified. Even death behaves differently here. A body does not disappear quickly. It becomes part of the slow economy of the abyss, recycled over years, decades, sometimes longer. Bones persist. Shells accumulate. The ocean floor is layered with the remains of countless lives compressed into sediment, turned gradually into stone. The deep sea remembers everything, not as stories or images, but as chemistry, as pressure, as layers laid down one particle at a time. And then there is the psychological distance. Humans evolved in light. Our brains are wired to fear darkness, to interpret the unknown as danger. But the deep sea is not hostile in intent. It is simply indifferent. The darkness is not malevolent. It is neutral. It is the default state of the universe. Stars are rare. Light is the exception. Darkness is the rule. In this sense, the deep ocean is not an alien world at all. It is closer to cosmic reality than the sunlit surface we call home. Perhaps this is why the deep sea unsettles us. It strips away the illusion that we are central. It reveals a planet that functions perfectly well without us, that supports vast, intricate systems entirely beyond our awareness. Most life on Earth lives without ever encountering a human, without ever knowing we exist. Most of Earth's surface lies beneath water we have never touched. Most of Earth's living space is dark, and still curiosity pulls us downward. We build machines that can withstand pressure. We send cameras into blackness. We listen, we sample, we observe. Every expedition answers one question and creates 10 more. Every discovery expands the mystery rather than shrinking it. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that the deep sea is not a puzzle with a final solution. It is a conversation we have just begun to overhear. There are sounds recorded in the deep ocean that remain unexplained. Low-frequency calls, rhythmic pulses, distant signals whose sources are unknown. Some may be geological, some may be biological, some may be interactions between the two. We label them, catalogue them, debate them, and then we leave, and the sounds continue long after our instruments are gone. There are regions where the seafloor appears scarred, disturbed in patterns that do not fit known processes. There are species glimpsed once and never again. There are behaviors observed briefly, without context, without explanation. The deep sea does not offer clarity easily. It reveals itself in fragments, in moments, in hints. And that is why, even now, it remains one of the last true frontiers on Earth. Not because it is unreachable, but because it resists simplification. It refuses to be fully mapped, fully understood, fully owned. It exists on its own terms. Tonight, as consciousness softens and thought loosens its grip, imagine letting go of the need to understand. Imagine floating in water so dark that sight becomes irrelevant, where orientation dissolves, where there is no up or down, only suspension. The pressure is constant, equal on all sides. There is no struggle, no urgency, just presence. In this place, mystery is not uncomfortable, it is restful. Questions do not demand answers. Unknowns do not need resolution. They simply are. The deep sea does not explain itself, and it does not apologize for that. It invites stillness, acceptance, surrender. Let your breathing slow, like currents moving along the ocean floor. Let thoughts drift past, like bioluminescent flashes, appearing briefly, then fading. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to interpret them. Just observe, and then let them go. Somewhere far below, vents flare softly. Cold seeps breathe chemicals into stone. Creatures glide through darkness without eyes, without fear. Life continues, patient and precise, adapted perfectly to conditions that seem impossible only from the surface. And you here now are allowed to rest. Held not by certainty, but by depth. Not by answers, but by quiet. The ocean does not demand anything from you. It carries its mysteries gently, and tonight it carries you as well. Drift deeper, slower, softer. The surface world can wait. If this journey into the ocean's deepest mysteries has brought you calm, if these unseen worlds and ancient rhythms have helped your mind slow and your body rest, we invite you to stay with us. You can support Mythical Stories simply by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Each small gesture allows us to continue creating peaceful, immersive stories designed to guide you into rest, curiosity, and quiet wonder. Thank you for being here and for choosing to share this moment of stillness with us. Now, there's nothing left to do, no depth left to reach, no mystery left to chase tonight. You can allow yourself to drift fully, knowing that the deep sea will continue its patient existence without your attention. The lights will glow, the currents will move, life will persist in silence and pressure and darkness, just as it always has. Let your breathing become slow and effortless. Let the weight of the world remain at the surface, far above you. Here, in the deepest place, there is only calm, only stillness, only rest. The ocean holds its secrets, and now it holds your sleep.